All right, everybody. On behalf of Trident Title, Performance Title, and Synergy Title, I want to welcome you guys to 5 ways to get the most out of a questionable market. A lot of interesting things have happened in the last couple of weeks, so just want to make sure you guys are taking advantage while there is opportunity still out there, even if people are, screaming doom and gloom. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the market just in the last little while, just to give you some interesting facts and update you. And then we're going to talk about 5 ways to get the most out of it. And then we will wrap up with a summary. I know everybody on the call, so I'm not going to spend too much time going through this about me. They always find good photos of me to throw in here. All right, let's dive in. 5 ways to get started five ways to get the most out of a questionable market. So what's happening in the market right now? First of all, it is changing. If you've been living under a rock for a little while, you might not know that, but everybody should. And the ones that are saying it's not, or nothing's happening, or the market's not going to shift, I mean, the numbers just say otherwise. I'm all for being positive and optimistic and everything. And I don't think anything's going to really get that bad. However, there are things changing every day, and we have to be aware of the trends and the numbers and history and stats to be able to make the best push forward. So let's talk about some things that are happening right now. Mortgage rates last week broke 6% for the first time since 2010. So that was a big jump. They got up as high as 6.6 for a couple hours there, and then kind of hovered back down around the low sixes. So we don't know where they're going to go, but all signs point to the sevens and maybe even the eights. But we're definitely hovering around that low 6% as of right now, and kind of seeing how the world reacts to it. Inventory up 17% right now compared to this time last year. So that is a lot, right? A big gain. And if you look at the MLS every day, you're starting to see those numbers of homes that are on the market trickle up every day for the first time in quite some time, really for a couple of years. So we've been seeing numbers go up every day, every week, which is good. All the GDP forecasts are down. So gross domestic product, everything looking down. The Fed has been hiking rates every chance that it gets, right? If you go in my Facebook group, or if you look back at some of the Zooms and the Facebook Lives I did at the end of last year, when we were doing them on live regularly, September, October, November, December, when we were talking about rates then, and the Fed said, oh, they're only going to do 4 rate hikes over the next 12, 14, 16 months. And then they came out and did 4 before like March. And then they've done like 4 since then. And there's still a handful more scheduled. There's another July bump scheduled, an August one scheduled. So kind of crazy, right? 75 basis points hike last week. And it looks like another 75 more coming in July. So what that means is basically 75 basis points is 0.75%. So 0.75%. Just last week alone, looks like that same thing happening in July. And then they'll adjust and see what happens. But as the economy just kind of continues to survive it, they're just going to keep bumping them. So it's interesting. Hotel occupancy way down, which is kind of crazy, because 19 it was way up, and then 20 it fell off the planet, right, because of COVID. And then it's been crawling up and crawling up and crawling up and crawling up. And just over the last couple of weeks, all the hotels have been, kind of getting nervous because they're worried what's happening, and people don't have as much disposable income, right? Usually the summer is the time when the hotels do really great because kids are off school, and they've been bad. All of the publicly traded real estate brokerages are getting absolutely crushed. I don't care what company you work for, but just go look at any of the publicly traded ones. All 3 of the big ones that are public, Compass, EXP, and Redfin, took an absolute beating in the last couple of weeks. Compass and Redfin laying off huge numbers of people. I have some friends that got laid off of those things, actually. And all the ones with stocks are just getting destroyed. Builder confidence, kind of scary. It's been coming down every single month since December of 2021. So we're on 6 or 7 months in a row now of those numbers continuing to fall and continuing to go down. So those are just the numbers that the builder talks about, how they feel, basically what they feel like new construction is going to look like in the coming future. So when we look at this, it's still high compared to what it's been in the past. It's still in the 80s, which is good, but it has been coming down every single month since December 2021. Pending home sales, so the amount of homes going under contract, down 3.9% last month, and have been down now 6 months in a row. So inventory is coming back, and number of homes going under contract going down, where we couldn't keep them on the shelf 6 months ago, a year ago. New home sales also down 10% since December 21, and they've gone down every single month since December 2021. So the new construction, people are slowing down a little bit. They're coming back down to reality a little bit, not overpaying these crazy amounts that some of the places are wanting. And the percentage of people in the US who own homes has also gone down every month since July 2020. So we're almost at 2 consistent years of drops in that. So next month would be 24 months in a row if it goes down again. And this is the percentage of people in the US who own homes in total. So people are seeing, okay, the values are high, maybe I should sell, and then they're starting to rent instead. And as people are entering into the phase where they choose if they're going to rent or buy, not that either are affordable, but rent is like balancing it out in some areas. Some rental areas are a little bit cheaper than the purchasing, not really by us, but in some areas they definitely are. So not to be doomy and gloomy, but these are the stats, right? These are just the facts. This is the hard data. So you could like it, you could not like it, you could believe it, you could not believe it. But there is some sort of a shifting, changing market. It is questionable. Is it going to go that bad? I honestly don't think so. But when we look at these stats, all the signs point to at least a little bit of a correction or a flattening out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We could kind of use that. So when the market changes, you must too. So let's talk about what to do, right? Changing markets, honestly, are a good thing because this is when you'll start seeing people exit the industry, which is good. People will panic and go get a job or get into something else or blame real estate. But definitely 5 simple things that we can do to take advantage of this. And I just want to kind of talk through them. So number 1, let's talk about your buyer leads. It's time to check back in on your buyer leads because there are a lot of them that are floating around out there that opportunity has came back to. So what I would do is call every single buyer lead that you have ever gotten, not just in the last 6 months, 8 months, year, 2 years, wherever you've been putting them, whether that's in your phone, an Excel spreadsheet, a shoebox with their names on it, or actually using the CRM. Let's call every single one of them that we've ever gotten and just let them know what's going on, right? More like a consulting conversation just of where we're at, because it is an interesting time. Everyone's saying the rates are going up so people can't buy, and that's partially true. But the ones that were like waiting for the market or waiting for things to slow down or waiting for prices to fall off, or they were sitting out, right? The ones that have said that the last 2 years, or even the ones that have just been losing and decided they were going to take a break because they just kept losing, those people might actually be able to get back in the game. So they might not be able to afford as much as they could, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. But when we look back at them, for the last couple of years, if they didn't have a 10 out of 10 motivation, mentally, and also really like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 situation financially, they just weren't being successful, period. But now the ones with like the 7 out of 10 motivation and the 7 out of 10 financial situation, those people are starting to win again because every single house that comes on the market isn't going into multiple offers. And some still are, right? The ones that are priced correctly still are, but some aren't. And with rates going up a little bit of people are getting a little bit scared. So some of the ones that were just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for just a breather, they've started to get it over the last couple of weeks. And it really is time to get back with them and make sure we have a conversation with them and update them on where they're at, update their pre-approvals, update their financial situation, but get them back in the game if they have any real motivation at all. If they're just the looky-loos, then, don't waste your time. But if they have some motivation, but they were put on the shelf or put on the sideline because of something else, now is the time to call all through them, update them on where we are at in the market, and then just get them back in a car, get them back looking at houses, because truthfully, they're starting to have a chance. And we're starting to see, these success stories, people that have been looking for a house for a year, for 2 years, and have just failed consistently are starting to win again. Now they're paying more than they wanted to, but at least they're getting in and they're not renting. We don't want to rent. So that's a good thing. All right. Number 2, second tip for really coming out of this questionable market on top is reactivating your seller leads. So just like the buyer leads that were sitting on the fence, the seller leads, it's really time to have some serious conversations with them. And honestly, the seller ones are going to be harder because truthfully, I think they missed the absolute top. I think they missed the craziness that every home was getting. Now, some are still going to get that, but definitely some have missed out. So it's time to call every single seller lead you have. Same thing. Get in there, call every single seller lead you have. Let them know what is going on. So what's actually happening in the market. They might not understand this, but you need to be able to explain that rising rates and rising prices mean affordability is going down every single day. So if those rates keep bumping up or keep chugging up, even if the prices rise a touch, they're really eliminating the opportunity for more buyers in the pool. And that's a problem. Right now, affordability is down. So that means less buyers. And less buyers means lower prices, right? More days on the market, less multiple offer situations. And we're seeing that all over the place. In 2021, the average home in the state of Florida had 13 offers on it. And now we're getting back down to one, right? Not multiple offer situations. Again, I know some price points in some areas still are, but not all of them. Every single one of them was a while ago. Now we're starting to see realtors. I was in an office the other day, and a lot of them were worried. They're like, I've had my house on the market for 4 hours and I didn't get an offer. I had my house on the market for 3 days and we don't have any showings, where that has not been the case for the last 2 years. So it's time to let them know truthfully that we are likely past the top, right? The top, we might still continue to rise, a couple percent a year here. But what was really driving people to get the top amount of pricing was that they were getting the multiple offers with people that were just paying stupid numbers over the price. We might now be back to getting 100% of list price or a small discount on the list price. So we're likely past the top of the market. However, the market we are in still will definitely be able to provide multiple offers and still can score big money and still can get really optimal terms for the homes that are priced correctly. So we need to get with those sellers, make sure we're pricing things correctly, make sure we're getting them on the market, because we're really at that point where who knows now, we're one more rate hike away from things going in the other direction. And if, some people think the absolute top was 2, 3, 4 months ago. Some people think we're close to it right now. Some people think it might be in the next 2, 3, 4 months. Obviously, no one knows the truth, right? We don't know what those final numbers are going to look like. But when we look at this, if we are not working with the sellers now to get them on, there's an honest chance that they're going to miss. So you have to have a tough conversation with them. And although they might say, I don't know where I'm going to go, or we want to hold out, or, we're worried that we missed it, let's just let the rates settle and then things will get better. You have a fiduciary responsibility to them to get them the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress. And we might be on the back end of that being possible. So who knows, right? But it is definitely time to make the effort on every one of those seller leads. So if you have a pile of seller leads somewhere, whether it's in the shoebox or it's in your CRM or it's in your phone, it's time to call them, right? I don't care if it's on an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document. It's time to call back through all of them, see if they've sold, see where they're at, see what the house looks like, what their life plans are like, and get over there, see that house and get that thing on the market. If they want to get the most amount of money, if they've changed their life plans and they just want to sit around and wait on it, or maybe they have really cheap money on that house, maybe they have a mortgage rate that's half of what they could get now and they don't want to move, I can understand that, right? I have some things that I was thinking about selling, but because of the mortgage rate, there's just really no point of selling. It just doesn't make any sense. So I get if some sellers, if that's what they're wanting to do, but we need to have that conversation. The trust with them is going to start with the honesty. Let them know where we're at with the market. Let them know where they're at in their situation and figure out what the right move is moving forward. For a lot of sellers, it's still the right time to sell because the equity is just too good to pass up. And, they might never get this chance again in their lifetime. So they need to. All right. Tip number 3, getting the most out of questionable market. Update your database on the market weekly. They are getting their news right now from the news, which we know is never accurate, from Facebook, which we know is never accurate, and from their friends who have no idea. So if we are not educating them weekly, we are missing out. Now, I'm not saying you need to call and talk to every single person weekly. Your entire pipeline, yes. If you're working with them as a buyer or seller, we should be updating them weekly. But the whole rest of the database, we can create some mass created content, right? It could be YouTube. It could be Instagram or Facebook stories, a Facebook Live here and there, whatever it is, but we need to update them weekly. The numbers are changing so fast, right? People's data is just behind when they're hearing, what's going on in the marketplace, or they're looking back and they see, oh, it was 4 days ago and the rates, last week were in the 5s still, now they're in the 6s. So we need to talk to these people. We need to be updating them no matter what. And also on the condition of the market. If you're not telling the story of the local market, they're getting it from somewhere else. And I promise you where they're getting it from is not going to be as accurate as you. If you're not looking at like the hot sheets every day, the NAR, FAR, and local data every day, you're just missing out on an opportunity to educate the database in a time when they need the education more than ever, especially as things start tightening up here. The news, whatever news you listen to, I don't care. They all suck. But whatever one you're listening to, both sides of them are always going to be reporting on a national level. Even if you're listening to local news, it's going to be local news would be like the state, what's going on in the state in real estate. And that doesn't, nail down into your farm area, your zip code, the little areas that you're working. So you need to be getting that data and explaining it to them. We need to explain the expectations of the buyers and sellers in a current market. So if you're a buyer, what are the expectations? How can they win? How can they lose? If you're working with a seller, same thing. What are their expectations, but what are realistic? They're still living in the past from 6 months ago where they think everyone's going to, put a house on the market, get 50,000 over asking price, not have to fix anything in inspection. And again, in some markets and some price points, that's still accurate, but it's getting less and less of that every single day. More deals are falling apart every day. More people are not paying over the appraised value every day. The lenders are tightening up every day. So we need to look at these things and be updating them. We need to be proactive on this, not reactive, right? If we're telling the story, we can tell it how we want. If they're getting the story from someone else and coming to us, then we're playing defense. And that is never a good situation to be in this one. You can lead this with education. You can lead them through a questionable market with education if you're doing it consistently. If you're consistently learning every week, there's an opportunity there. We need to just be thinking of every call or conversation as a consulting call, not a sales call. We need to be consulting each one of these people on their specific situation because theirs is different than their neighbors and it's different than the other sellers and the other buyers. Everybody's situation is different. And right now, as rates are high, but prices are high too, some people's best move is to stay put, but a lot of people's best move is to cash out on the equity because who knows, the next time they get back to this point, it might be 10, 15, 20 years. And life might have passed them by too much where it doesn't make sense to do it. So make sure we're updating that entire database every single week, whether it's short form social media, or YouTube or seminars that you're teaching in person, or live on Facebook or Instagram Live, whatever it might be. All right, number 4, revamp your marketing and presentations. It is time, right? It is time to update. Professional marketing is now a must. It's been easy to sell houses for the last couple of years. It's literally taken no skill, especially the last 2 years, but really the last like 5 to 7. Anybody's crap marketing has survived, and that is not going to continue to work, right? Professional photography is a must. I realize that when the market has been so hot, we can take one cell phone picture, throw it on the MLS and have 100 people at an open house and it's gone. As affordability goes down every day, those days will continue to go back to where professional photography, professional videography was the only option. A presentation is a must. If you don't have a marketing presentation, what your marketing looks like, what a listing presentation looks like, what a buyer presentation looks like, you're missing out. You're not going to be able to survive against the actual professionals that do these things when people start having to make a choice, because it's not as easy to sell real estate, right? When the market's easy, anyone that had their license at any brokerage with any skill level could put something on the market and it would sell in 5 seconds. It didn't take a lot. And when people would say, oh, sold it for 103% of asking price, didn't take any work to do that, right? There was no skill involved in doing that. It's just the market. Now that is changing, and the days of not having a presentation and just winging it are long gone, right? Social media also is a must. If you're not on social, I don't know who isn't by now, but if you're not, you're absolutely getting left behind, and reviews are starting to be more and more important. So if you don't have a review platform that you're using, I always suggest like Google or Facebook, one that you own. That I realize with Facebook, they kind of own it. And I guess in theory, so does Google, but like, the people that use Zillow is great, but Zillow, a couple months ago, if you remember, wiped out everybody's reviews and, claimed it was a glitch, but it happened to coincide with the day that they opened their own brokerage, which doesn't seem like that could possibly be a glitch. So, when we look at these things and we think about the future, and we know Zillow's making a push into the brokerage space, do we want all of our Zillow reviews or all of our reviews to be on the platform that's our competitors? I'd rather them be on Google, and not that Google doesn't own everything, but I personally feel you're much safer on something like that. So if you're not getting one every time you have a closing, whether it's a rental, a buyer, a seller, an investor, whatever, you're missing out. Get one of those reviews, bribe them if you have to, give them a $25 gift card. It's legal, right? $25 gift card can be unbranded, doesn't have to represent your business. You can give a $25 gift card in real estate with no issues. So do a $25 gift card, bribe them to get those reviews if you need to. Do whatever you need to do to get those. Because again, people were not researching real estate agents for the last couple of years. It's already coming back. And if you're not getting reviews, you're going to be missing out. And number 5, brush up on your skills. The last one here, brush up on your skills. The last 5 to 7 years have been insanely easy and required little to no skills to sell real estate. That changes now, right? If you were in the market 10 years ago when everything was skill-based, then it changed, and now it's going to be going back to skill-based. When there's competition, there's money on the line, and everybody can't get top dollar for everything. all of a sudden the skill-based professionals are going to rise. So some skills you need to work on ASAP. Your presentations, we talked about that the slide before, but if you don't have a listing presentation and a buyer presentation that you're practicing weekly, you're missing out. Pricing, learning how to actually price properties accordingly, not putting it on the market with the Walmart strategy because the seller thinks $497, $999 sounds fun. Like actually learning how to price properties. Communicating. How are you communicating at a high level with your people? How do they like to be communicated with? Follow-up. What do those follow-up systems look like? Are they in place? Are you working on those follow-up skills? Meaning, do you have a part of your day time blocked to ensure that you're following up with some of your clients? Marketing. What are we doing for marketing? Are you working on that, or are you hiring it out? You don't need to necessarily do it yourself. Hiring it out, there's nothing wrong with that too. And budgeting. No one likes to talk about this one, but as things are tightening, expenses need to tighten as well. And the days of just throwing money at leads because we know we're going to pour some more in next month might not be the best strategy. So these are some of the basic skill sets that you need to work. But presentations, there's no reason to not have at least a buyer and seller. You should probably also have a tenant and an investor one, like made and nice and ready to go. Not you're winging it 15 minutes before you have to leave for the appointment. Your pricing, practice your CMAs. If you've never taken one of those classes at the board, go to them. They're really great. They're really simple. But learn how to actually price a property correctly and test it, right? When something new comes on the market, create the price yourself and then see what it actually closes at. The communication, make sure you're working on those communication skills to figure out what the most efficient way is to communicate with a lot of people. Your follow-up, make sure you have a system in place for your follow-up that you're working on. So what CRM or what piece of technology are you using? I'll remember and sticky notes and the business card box does not work, right? We need something that we can scale. Marketing, what are you doing every day to market yourself? Are you doing something every single day to be getting your name out there? And are you looking at your budget? I'm not going to say every day, but at least once a week. Are we looking at where we can cut expenses that are not returning us money? And what fixed expenses or fixed costs do we have that we can lower? All right, in summary, top 5 tips to survive and really get the most out of this questionable market, because there is a ton of opportunity here. Number 1, check in, hit all your buyer leads every single week. Number 2, reactivate those seller leads, get in front of them again ASAP before it's too late. Number 3, update your database on the market every single week. Do a weekly Zoom call or Facebook Live or something to update them. Number 4, revamp all of your marketing and your presentations. Number 5, brush up on your skills. As always, thank you guys for your business. We appreciate it. Kerry, thank you as always for the slides and making everything look nice. Coming soon. Next week, we are doing the LP Mama script strategy. If you've never heard of this one, it's a doozy and it makes me laugh every time. But it's a great scripting strategy and like methodology of how you talk to people to convert buyers in what is an insanely difficult market still for buyers, especially with rising rates and rising numbers. So if you're not super familiar with that, join us next week. I promise it'll help. As always, if you need anything, feel free to reach out. If you're not a member of the private group, take out your phone, open up your camera, point it at the QR code, and reach out through there. If not, if you have any questions, either type them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask away. And if not, you guys are free. Have a good day.